Forward to the computer. All right, so yeah, now I'm recording, and so yeah, I'm going to open it up to the student panel. So the first question here is, how can I increase my time management skills along with managing everything else that I'm expected to do while balancing callings, temple attendance, extracurricular, and my favorite, dating? All right, so anybody want to jump in on that one?
I can jump in on that. Do you?
Okay, well,
sorry. Do you want through this or through the text?
well, Strider, you don't. Well, yeah. Go ahead. I'm kind of interested in a perspective of somebody in the class right now. This is a little different. Normally, I just.
Sorry. I can. Yeah, I can. Sorry, I thought it was an open question.
Okay. Yeah, you
leave it to the experts, man. Come on, like.
Take it away, Emma. Let's hear it.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I can give advice in everything except dating. But so for me, it took some time. It's not something that just happens overnight. It takes time to get used to. So it's normal if it's hard to figure out. It takes time to start building a structure. But to start off for me with everything, trying to balance church stuff, callings, scripture study, classes, homework, social life, dating life. For me, things start to fall into place with scheduling when I put the religious stuff first. For me, it's like putting God first, and from that, I'm able to, like through that, Heavenly Father is able to help me see how I need to structure everything else. And it also is almost like treating school like a full-time job. It's like you wake up. For me, it's I wake up, I do my scripture study, eat breakfast, get on campus, go to classes, and stay on campus until I finish most of my homework. And then I go home with most of my homework done, hopefully. And then when I'm at home, that's when I do more of my like home stuff at my apartment, whether it's as a like apartment mom, trying to do my calling with reaching out to my roommates or my FHE groups, just stuff like that. Just building a structure and a schedule. That's for me, but everyone's different with their majors and the demands with that. But for me, it's just, you start to figure it out as you go, what works for you. But for me, it's like, with a more like spiritual, not secular advice, is like putting Heavenly Father first, and that starts to fall into place.
I kind of want to like chime in on that too. So for me, I'm a really big procrastinator. And anyone who knows me knows that. But I'm also like really big about scheduling, which the two just clash really bad. But every year that I come to college, I make sure to purchase a planner, and I write like literally everything in there, because if you don't, then you end up like me this semester forgetting like 2 of my legal briefs and having to make them up at the end of the year. So that's never fun. So write stuff down and just prioritize stuff however you please.
And it does help when you have really understanding professors. Autumn, would you agree?
None of my professors understand. So they all, they're very sticklers on their deadlines.
As they should be. Good for them. All right, yeah, others?
I'd like to add a little something to that. I really like what Emma and Autumn were saying. But one of the biggest things that I've mentored a lot of students in both my roles, like jobs on campus and in different things like that. But the number one thing that I found with myself and with everyone is that you really need to know yourself and know your limits. If you struggle sometimes with meeting deadlines and doing homework assignments, it might be wise to know I can't take on that much. I've always taken on more than I could handle because I like being busy. And I don't know, like this semester I took on 17 credits. I'm a Relief Society president. I have 2 jobs as well. And I have to stay organized. I have to have everything written out, like Autumn was saying, and I have to have a planner. And so the number one thing is just know what you can do, kind of test some things out before you throw yourself completely into it. Because this is my last semester. And I've experimented a lot. Like when I'm adding classes or doing things, I give myself the opportunity to see, like maybe I just need to go to this class on the first day and see if I can handle it with all these other ones, and like assess the drop deadlines and just know yourself, figure out what you can and can't handle.
All right. Awesome. Here's another question just to and the rest of you in the panel can kind of jump in here too. One that I get a lot is, or one that the students want to hear is, what would you, if you could go back and tell your freshman self something, a piece of advice, what would that be?
I'll jump in on this one. I heard a lot of people when I came to school, everyone said C's get degrees and you're gonna be done with college and no one's gonna look at, like, no one really cares what grades you got. And so I only took that a little bit to heart. So I got 2 C's as a freshman, my first semester here, and I've never ever gotten C's before. But now I'm at the end of my college career and my GPA is decent. I made up one of those classes, but I'm wanting to go to grad school. And you have to have a good GPA to go to grad school. And so I made up one. I retook one of those classes and got an A, and then I just haven't touched the other one. But you just never know what's going to happen with your degree. You never know how much you're going to change your mind. You don't know if you are going to end up wanting to go to grad school or just be in a position where maybe your grades matter or just something else about school or what you're doing will matter, because everything that you're doing actually is going to matter in the long run. So I think I would have just told myself, don't be so confident in thinking that you know exactly what's going to happen 4 years from now. So that's what I would say.
That's great. Thanks, Hannah.
I'd like to add on to that. Join clubs, get involved. A lot of the times when I actually apply for jobs or internships, a lot of people like to look at what clubs did I do. Was I in an investment society? Did I do languages? Did I have, I don't know, just what did I do outside of class? And they hope, and that almost is more important than some of the classes I've actually taken while here.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, good advice. And often I like to bring in representatives from the different societies here to this presentation, but I just got worried we'd have too many presenters and run out of time or something. But yeah, like one that I work with, I guess I'll just plug my own since I'm the advisor, but I'm the advisor for the Pre-Law Society. And that's been just a fun club. They meet weekly. They'll either bring in presenters, sometimes it's local attorneys, sometimes it's people that help with the LSAT prep courses. And it's just kind of a great way to have some social time together. So, but yeah, was it Tyler? Was it you that mentioned like the Finance Society or something? Or
yeah, so I used to be a part of the Investment Society. I did that for 2 years, and that's what landed me a bunch of jobs. Just because some of these societies, you actually work for the school. So for the school, I worked for an endowment fund. I managed about $7 million of actual money that went to scholarships and different things. And so when I applied for the job, I was like, hey, look, I've actually dealt with, managed, done stocks, portfolios, everything with real money, and I have success doing that. And that landed me a pretty good job.
Yeah, no, these are great ways to network, and yeah, awesome. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, let's see. Let's pull up another question. We kind of talked about societies, so let's talk about majors and how you chose your major. So, what advice would you guys give to freshmen that are maybe unsure about their major or kind of shopping around? What would you tell them?
One thing
I
that
could go.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
okay. One thing that I would say is explore your options, because I always knew I wanted to go into something business related, but I wasn't quite sure. And so I dabbled a little bit in accounting and marketing, and I stuck with finance just because for me it was something that was a little more application based. I didn't have to really memorize a ton of stuff. It was mostly developing hard skills and analytics and understanding balance sheets and stuff like that, but it wasn't as into that side of things as accounting. And so I just felt like it fit my personality the best and was like a happy medium between the accounting side of thing and the business side of things. So basically how I chose my major.
Kind of along with that, like I really like how you said know yourself, and like I don't really like things with hard skills. I like to be able to apply myself to different areas. And so communications, I really liked it because I could graduate the fastest and I didn't have to do a whole lot of math. So it just worked out like the whole 2 yards or whatever the saying is. But it was, yeah, just know what you're capable of. I'm not capable of adding, so I went to communications.
That's funny. Yeah, and I'll give you kind of a brief history of what I did. I originally, my dad's an engineer. He's like this aerospace engineer, and really wanted me to go into that. And I liked it okay, but I didn't like calculus. And so I thought about maybe going into the medical field or something, but I can't stand blood. So anyway, I thought freshman year I picked political science because I thought about going to law school, but then my uncle, who's an attorney, was like, no, don't do that. Do something different. And he told me I was a horrible writer, which is why I chose English. And with the English major, I just basically read and wrote for 4 years. And that ended up being a great benefit to me when I went to law school. Now, I still, I got a degree in business management as well, because I wanted to be a corporate attorney. But part of it was I needed to like pick up some skills that I didn't really have. And so that's why I chose a major that would complement one of my weaknesses, which was writing. And now that's pretty much all I do in my professional career. When I'm not teaching, I'm reading and I'm writing and giving opinions on things. And so, yeah, I think it's okay to pick something that you're naturally poor at because it'll make you a stronger candidate for jobs down the road. Okay. Let's see. Hannah brought up graduate school. Hannah, are you thinking, is it like a master's in psychology? Is that what you're looking at?
So, and this is one of the cool things about psychology is there's 3 different emphasis that you can have. And so I'm an IO, industrial organizational emphasis. So I'm like HR, like business psychology, basically. And I didn't decide that till a year or so ago, but just to tag along with what you said, I chose HR because it wasn't as comfortable. It was something, I know it's something that's going to push me a little bit more, but it'll keep me interested the rest of my life. But to answer your question, sorry, probably an MHR, Master's in Human Resources, or an MBA, or a Master's in Organizational Behavior, like a communication master's degree. So I'm looking into those 3.
Great. Now that's exciting. So here at BYU Idaho, we don't push grad school very much or at all, but I think it's a great, it's just something that somebody told me when I was looking at grad school is they just said, look, nobody ever really regrets going and getting additional education unless it's in like music or something. And that's just a joke and a dig at music people. But I swear half the music faculty is in my ward and they hate when I say stuff like this. So it's kind of fun to get them riled up. I'm like, no, that's fine as long as you don't want to make any money. But yeah, that's I think getting further education, it just opens a lot of doors, and statistically, it's a great return on your investment. Even a lot of degrees that cost a lot of money. So just something to think about while you're freshmen, except for Danny, because I always have to point you out. I'm gonna miss doing this, Danny. I'm bummed that you're not like sitting right in front. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so yeah, graduate school. Let's see. Another one that Savannah, if you don't mind, I'll put you on the spot a little bit to talk about IBC. Because a lot of you are taking this class because you're thinking of doing management or some of these other degrees that either require or strongly recommend that you do IBC. And Savannah's currently in IBC, which this has to be, Savannah, like the craziest semester to have ever done IBC. I can't even imagine, because as you might imagine, they got shut down, what, a week, 2 weeks ago or something. And so this was a quick one. So Anything you wanna advice you want to give them about that?
Yeah, it has been definitely weird. So this last rotation has, yeah, not been typical, but typically I wouldn't recommend taking a lot of hard classes with IBC because it takes up a lot of your time. It's 9 credits, and so some of you will have to take an additional class or two to keep scholarships or financial aid or things like that. But just know how you deal with workloads, and don't like overpack it because it is very time consuming. I mean, you have that class every day, you're running an actual business and stuff like that. So if you can handle several classes, then that's fine. But like, I probably wouldn't take like accounting and econ classes on top of IBC because those ones are demanding as well. But I don't know if anyone has like a specific question about IBC that you want to know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you have questions about IBC, what it is, how it works, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away.
Or put it in the chat and I can answer you too. But
so I have a question about IBC. When you get into groups, do you guys decide those groups, or are those groups given to you?
They're randomly given, but at the beginning, like before the semester starts, you fill out like a survey of like what your preference would be with like food, apparel. I don't remember all the different categories, but then they randomly assign you into like a group. My company was about 12 people, and then you're with like one teacher. But I don't know. I don't know how much they look at that survey either, because I wanted to do food and I was put in apparel. So I don't know.
So,
but
Brother Hales, would you know that because you also teach IBC sometimes?
About how they're put into companies, or what was the question?
Yeah, companies or groups and stuff like that. Like, for example, if I knew like people who I wanted to do IBC with and we all pick the same class together, would there be a chance that we'd all be in the same business, or the teachers kind of just like, we will put you where we want you?
Yeah, it's very random. You won't most likely be with them.
Okay.
And there's one professor that's in charge of putting the groups together, and what he does is he just kind of takes preferences, and if he can, he'll put them into groups that like things that they want to do, except for Savannah apparently. And then it's just, he puts it through a randomizer program and spits it out. So I get students all the time that are like, that ask me if they can be in my IBC company. And I say, I would love that, but I can't even put in a request. They don't even accept that from the faculty themselves. So it is just totally random.
Yeah. A few people put questions in the chat. Do people ever do online businesses in IBC? They might start doing that, but currently we had to shut down completely, so we didn't transfer to online. But depending on how things go, that might be an option in the future. But right now they're all on campus. And then when do you think is the best time to do IBC? It just kind of depends. I don't think winter's ideal because it's cold, and if you get stuck outside, that would be terrible. Plus you go on a retreat outside, which is cold. Spring is the nicest weather, but then there's not as many people. So I think fall. I would say fall. But I don't know.
I'll second that. I think the most successful groups that I've had do fall. You get the benefit too of like having a number of holidays within the semester, and my company did candles a couple years ago during fall semester, and they just killed it. It was great, and the weather at the retreat was nice too. Should we tell them about the retreat?
Yeah, you like camp outside for like 3 days, and we were in cabins, so like sleeping wasn't terrible, but you're outside like all day doing activities, like team building activities, because that's one thing that's kind of hard with IBC is you're having like 12 different people from different backgrounds come together to work together and start a company. So like I had people that were in like apparel design, or I had a horticulture major as well. And so it's just an opportunity to like learn how to build your team up and learn to work together, because that's I think one of the biggest challenges throughout the semester is working with people, because you'll have some people that might be super lazy or don't understand things. I don't know. That was just the biggest obstacle I faced, was working with that many people.
And this happens with every group that I've ever seen too. There's usually about, I don't know, 11 to 17 students within each company. And invariably there's like one or two people in that group that are just extremely difficult, that cause a lot of, I don't want to say anger, but a lot of frustration, I should say, within the group. And it seems like, I don't know if this happened to you, Savannah, this semester, but oftentimes there's like one day that's just the ultimate low, like people blow up on each other. And anyway, but then on the flip side, you get to come together, and I've seen this every semester as well, is after that happens, everybody kind of builds each other up and works together to kind of make the semester success even after something like that. So it's a great education, and that's part of the reason that we don't let students put their groups together. We just randomly assign them, because you don't know what you're going to get. And for most people, their professional lives, that's how it is. You don't get to choose everybody that you get to work with, unless you start your own company and you're in charge of hiring, which even if you do that at the beginning, that's not how it's going to be forever. So that I think that's the way that, the reason that we've designed it the way that it is.
There's another question. I'm not sure if this is still about IBC, but is there an adjusted grading system, or does everyone get the same grade? Not everyone gets the same grade, and it's technically 3 classes. So you get a grade, and it's like IBC leadership or something, marketing, and then basic IBC basics or something like that. And so you get 3 different grades, and your grades there are like Canvas assignments that you have to do, but basically you'll have a rotation in marketing, a rotation in finance, and then a rotation in operations, and you're graded based off your performance. So if you have a habit of being lazy and not working hard, then change that habit, because you'll be graded upon that. So
yeah, and you're graded in part by your peers in your group, but then at the end of the semester, your faculty mentor has kind of the ultimate say on what your final grade is. So you meet with your faculty mentor in a final interview at the end of the semester, and then he or she will kind of go over everything and then decide the grades at that time. Looks like you got some more here. Oh, Strider, you want to ask a question, it looks like?
Yeah, so is that okay?
Huh?
Yeah, so Savannah mentioned, she talked a little bit about doing an IBC online. She talked about how she wasn't really sure how. So my question is, so I need to know if you can do IBC through some kind of an online thing, because let's say I'm running some investments, because I run some investments for people. Is that something that they would accept as an IBC program?
Doing investments, is that what you said?
Yeah, being like starting like a brokerage company. Is that something that they accept for IBC?
no.
Are you licensed?
I can get that way.
You can't have a pre-organized company.
No, well, it's not really an organized company right now. It sort of favors more than anything. I don't really. We might need to talk.
All right, yeah, it's my goal to not have any students go to jail. So yeah, let's chat. But yeah, it's really kind of broken up into these categories of either food, product, apparel, and sometimes if it's product or apparel, you can switch between those. And I had it was a product company, and they decided to do candy one time, which is, I mean, it's not, yeah, it's food. You put it in your mouth, it's food. So you do have a lot of leeway within the group. But
So it's more of a product-based thing, like you couldn't do services.
well, yeah, we've seen services before, like a shoe shining company a couple years back. Um, and really, there's a process you go through, and it has to get approved by the other, basically a panel of faculty. But as long as it fits the criteria of what they accept, you can do it. Otherwise, we get a lot of the same things every semester. It's like there's always a jewelry company, there's always a candle or chapstick or patches or, you know, t-shirt or something. Like we see a lot of the same things. So I think the professors are definitely open to seeing new types of companies. Okay, so Jace, it looks like this answers your question as well about the apparel food. It's really up to you. You can kind of put in your preference, you get assigned to a group, and then you decide as a group, you vote on the best idea that that somebody within your group comes up with. Okay. Oh, and Conrad's going to be one of the TAs next semester, so that's great. Okay, so Alma, here's another question for you, Savannah. If IBC is 3 different classes, or some of the other people in your group in different hours?
No, so like every day from like, some days it's from like 8 to 10, some days it's from 8 to 9:30, but every day that is like set aside to be when you're in class. And then from like after that, like 11 to 2 is when we operated, is when like the business happens. So that's also something to consider if you are going to take more than just IBC in a semester. Make sure that you leave that time available in the morning, because it'll be from like pretty much like 8 to 10 every morning you'll have class.
Good. All right. Any other questions about IBC? Looks like we're good. IBC, it's kind of like this great and horrible thing. I don't really know how to describe it. It's something that's, when you're in the midst of it, sometimes you just hate it. Kind of depending on group dynamics. But at the end, I've never had anybody say that they like truly regret and hate and despise every minute that they had in IBC. There's always something that they learned, and it's very different than your typical face-to-face class. Like I teach a number of classes, but then I'll do IBC a couple times a year, and it's nice because with IBC I get like 12 students, and I get to know them really well. They're over at my house. We're doing like barbecues, we're doing hikes, we're doing all kinds of stuff together. Whereas I just can't do that in, for example, your class where I've got 80 students. And especially where you're a block class, I just don't get to know you very well. Whereas with IBC, that's kind of the beauty of it. It's you just get really close to your entire group. So yeah, that's pretty good. All right, let's do one more question here. And Noelle, if you're, oh, there's Noelle. All right, Noelle, I figured this would be a good one for you as a communication major. Talk about any ideas or suggestions about networking for this class. There are a bunch of for the majority, new students, and probably use any tips that you've got for networking or internships or finding jobs or mentors or anything like that.
Absolutely. So I do, I'm communications, but strategic organizational communications. So I'm going into human resource management. And as part of that, I kind of learn a lot about recruiting and networking and things like that. I highly recommend using LinkedIn and connecting with old alumni and Handshake. You can even go to the alumni office and actually ask for basically alumni information that are in fields that you're interested in. So that's really good ways to network with people outside of just outside in the real world, I guess. And then get to know your professors. I know that I was kind of close to my HR professor, and she sent out an email basically said, hey, my friend knows that I'm at a university and emailed me, and they're looking for like 2 different HR interns. Is anyone interested? So getting to know your professors is really important. We also have internship missionaries on campus for different cities around the nation, and their mission, they're called on a mission basically to find internships for BYU Idaho students, which is super, super awesome. And then of course, being in a ward, although most of you hopefully aren't in a ward right now at the moment, but getting to know your bishopric members, getting to know Relief Society presidents, everyone just always knows someone. And so like I came home to my home ward for 1 week and my mom's like, oh, that's the head of HR at Amazon. You should go talk to him. And so I was like, hey, I do HR. And he's like, hey, email me and I'll get you an internship at Amazon. So that's a big kind of deal. So just know your, just know people, I guess, and get to know people and be friendly and join society so that you know people who know people who know people. And that's mostly networking. So.
All right, awesome.
Can I kind of put my 2 cents in on that too?
Yeah, you bet.
So something that I kind of learned, and it was just, so last summer I volunteered at this nonprofit, and it was just kind of, I liked the nonprofit. It was a domestic violence thing, so I was just like, heck, and I had some extra time on my hands. And then for this summer, I was looking for an internship and was kind of freaking out because I couldn't find anything. And this was before the whole coronavirus fiasco over here. And so I ended up calling them, and they still remembered me. Like they had invited me to their Christmas party and everything, which I don't really understand that. But they were like, yeah, absolutely. Like come intern with us. And ended up getting canceled because they don't want people going into the shelter. But if you volunteer, like people love having free labor. It's like child labor but better, and they'll just, you make an impression that way if you're willing to work for free at first, and then maybe it'll lead to something paid later on, hopefully.
Autumn, I know I can always trust you to bring it.
You know, that's what I'm here for. The truth hurts sometimes, Brother Hales.
All right, well, we have a couple minutes left. Anybody have any specific questions for anybody, either about majors or internships or networking or IBC, whatever?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What set you guys apart from other students other than just like schoolwork and clubs, like stuff outside of school?
Sarcastic comments.
One thing for me is I actually went to it was Meet the Firms for the accounting students. I'm not actually an accounting student, but I went anyways because, you know, they're not going to kick me out. And I just went up to one of the big four and my brother-in-law, or the big four accounting firms, and my brother-in-law works for Deloitte. And I just walked up to one of them, it was EY, and I started talking to them and I asked them what are the jobs that they have the most open that not many people apply for, and they said VAT tax. And so then I ended up doing an internship in San Francisco for EY. And now this is my last semester and I'm applying for jobs all over. And basically the big thing is just my internships, as I've been an accounting assistant and working for EY, or one of the big four, has helped me a ton. I just had, like, every time I go into a job interview, they automatically jump to my internships. And so my biggest advice that I would give is take advantage of your off semesters, and instead of working at McDonald's or something, try your hardest to get a job, even a tiny bit closely related to your major, and then just let them progress from there. And even if you're a freshman, for example, right now I've been interviewing for Goldman Sachs, and they've been hiring sophomores and freshmen and people who are really early on because they want them to do multiple internships with them. So that way, by the time you graduate, you're like the ideal candidate for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, MJ just asked if it's common to be paid for internships. Absolutely. I think many of our internships, of the companies that recruit here, they are paid. There are still unpaid internships, and sometimes those can be worth it if it sets you up to get a full-time position out of undergrad. That's definitely something to consider. But I mean, especially bigger companies not from Idaho that recruit here, those are paid pretty much across the board. Idaho companies, no. Sometimes there's some of you that just need to stay in town and get an internship, and so they're happy to take you on, and they're not going to pay you. But I would say kind of stretch yourself, get an internship on one of the coasts, or go to Texas, go to bigger markets, and some of you that are from those areas, like, look for internships from where you are, and use the connections that you have. Like was said, one of my internships was with Disney, and it's just because one of the VPs was in my ward in LA, and so use those connections and use other people's connections, and make friends and connect with people, not just on LinkedIn, but in this class itself. I know it's kind of hard now because everybody's on Zoom, but do your best just to make connections with other students, because they can set you up with great jobs. I've gotten a couple jobs from my classmates when I was undergrad and grad school. So yeah, I think push for those really good internships that pay, because they tend to be the ones that will lead you into the jobs that you want. Yeah, like Tyler says, they'll pay you if you show that you're worth it.
And can I say something to add on that? So when you do interview, or when you want to interview for these jobs, it's good to have a lot of practice. They have practice centers here on campus where you can practice interviewing, and it's almost like you're flirting with the guy. You kind of have to get him to like you and then show that you are worth something. For my accounting major, or my accounting internship sort of thing I did, they actually posed some questions that they had with the business, and I right away pulled stuff out of what I'd learned in class and been, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Show that you're worth something, and they'll pay you. And then even if they don't right away say that they're going to pay you, it's good to have interviewed with a couple people. So I could be like, oh yeah, this guy down the street's going to pay for my housing. This guy's going to pay for my travel. This guy's going to pay me $100 extra if I sign with him tomorrow. And kind of, it's almost like you're bargaining with the people. If you could show that, hey, other people are willing to pay me, you can kind of make your worth greater.
Yeah, they also have workshops. Depending on, it was required for intermediate financial accounting. You're required to go to a couple workshops in the semester, one for looking for internships and also job interviews. They're very helpful. It's an hour long roughly, where they have this guy come and present and go through practicing questions and answering questions about internships and stuff. So they do those 2 workshops twice a semester, so you can just look it up and look for the workshops. It was really helpful. So that there's also that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say another thing with your question, Hunter, is there's a lot of expeditions, at least with the business majors, that you can go on. So like this year they've gone to Dallas. Sometimes they go to Salt Lake and stuff. And so that's a good opportunity to meet people outside of the career fair too. A lot of large companies attend those expeditions. So.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So I actually used to work at the Career Networking Center, where they're talking about doing those interviews and stuff. So if you feel like you're starting from ground zero, like you have nothing, go there and get your resume done, learn how to make a good cover letter, do a lot of practice interviews, and create a LinkedIn profile and get over 500 connections. And then that way, when you go on an expedition or you talk to someone from your ward, you can say, yeah, I'll send you my resume, and your resume will look pristine and you're not going to come off unprofessional.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. All right. Well, we just hit 4 o'clock, so I'm guessing, Hannah, it's probably midnight in Sweden. Is that right? All right. We need to let Hannah go to bed. So if you have more questions, feel free to email those to me. I can send them on to the panel, or who said, was it Mitchell that said to connect with us on LinkedIn? Yeah, like everybody on the panel today, go ahead and add them on LinkedIn, and you can ask them questions directly as well. And the Top Hat code that is still open is 4123. So let me just put that in here. 23. I'll keep that open for another couple minutes. But otherwise, thanks everybody. Great job. This is our last live lesson. I've got videos for you on Wednesday, and then for next Monday, it's just a quick kind of goodbye lesson anyway. I'll just pre-record that and send that out to you. That way I can grow my beard out starting now. Just kidding. I have to keep the honor code all year. So, but I will pre-record that for Monday as well. So you should be all set after today. This is your last Top Hat attendance code. So congratulations. But yeah, keep in touch with me. I know this was the weirdest block class I've ever done, and you too. But I'm glad I got to meet you in some sense of the word, and look forward to staying in touch down the road as well. So thanks everybody. I'll go ahead and